Hello, everyone. It's ASEAN Anthony, and I am an American expat living throughout all of Southeast Asia and formerly living in Latin America. Today, we're going to talk about dating in Vietnam, and I'm going to give you four things that you need to know. Let's start with number one. There's a very big difference from dating in the north of Vietnam versus the south of Vietnam. Now, the North is far more strict. I mean, it's not even close. And there's a lot more rules. The dating barrier is a lot higher in the North. The South is far more like Thailand. People are a little more free, easygoing. I definitely would recommend living and dating in the South in general. But in this video, we're going to focus on the North because that is where I spent most of my time. I lived and worked in Vietnam for 3 years. So what I'm going to tell you is coming from experience with somebody who's lived there, worked there, and I've lived with a girlfriend. I had a girlfriend, multiple girlfriends, lived with them, loved them, thought about marrying them, etc., etc. And I'm just going to talk about some of the pros and the cons. So number one, there's a big difference from dating in the North versus dating in the South, okay? The North being far more restrictive, to say the least. Number two, this is going to be controversial and this is going to hurt a lot of feelings. But if you are used to living in Southeast Asia, you might agree with me. The women in Vietnam, not very attractive. Now, I understand this is very, this is just my opinion, but listen, just hear me out here. So the women in Vietnam and in the North, they're very homogenous and they come off as very feminine, classy, elegant. They wear these beautiful dresses. They have great skincare routines, long, silky black hair, very attractive when you first see them. Now, to the untrained eye, Vietnamese women are gorgeous. But once you've lived there for a while, you've noticed a few things. And the women there are very fragile. They don't they take care of their skin so much because they pride themselves on their white skin. So they stay out of the sun at all times. So when you are in northern Vietnam, you will see on even the hottest days, the girls are wrapped up head to toe, face covered, hands covered. They ride these motorbikes and they even put gloves on their hands. They wear hoodies completely covered up because they do not want the sun to touch their skin at all. And let's keep this idea going because they're so, so into their skin and so into staying away from the sun. This affects the way you're going to date them. So you're not going to be able to take them on any outdoor dates. So if you're an outdoor type of guy, you want to, go to archery range, you like going go-karting, you like going to mini putt, hiking, walked on the beach, just exploring in general. They're not into that, especially during the daytime. At night, they come out a little bit more, but it's very restrictive on what you can do with them, and that really plays a big role into how you're going to date them, because their idea of a date is coffee shops. You go to a coffee shop indoors. Okay, and to me, I think that's very boring, which, I generally view the Vietnamese women as very, very boring. They're not very interested in worldly affairs. They don't care about even the country next door. They are so into being Vietnamese. They are not concerned with almost anything. They have a strong sense of pride. So they don't compare themselves to, the Cambodian, Laos, Burmese, Indonesian, Chinese, etc., etc. They pretty much look inward, very self-centered. But like I said, I do love Vietnamese women. There are many women there that I still love. So yes, because of their skincare routines that lead them to have different types of routines and habits throughout the day, I find this to be very unattractive because they are wrapped up like mummies. Okay, so number three. I've touched on this already, but their lack of, because they're not very active, the women are very fragile. They're very weak, and I mean physically, they're very weak. Their arms are like this big, and you look at them and they just visually can't pick up a pencil. It seems like I don't think this is this is not my type at all. They don't seem to be into curves, and they're very stick figure esque. Not all of them, and I'm talking about the North, and not every Vietnamese woman. But I did not. I did not find the women to be attractive, and this is because they were not very active. Even when you got the women that would be willing to go to the gym, it was just an indoor gym, which is fine, but they they just seem like they were just too brittle, when you really get to know them. Like I said, when you first go to Vietnam, you look around, you're like, oh wow, these girls are very beautiful. And then you realize, instead of saying these girls are very beautiful, you say this girl is very beautiful, because they all kind of look the same. They either look the same, or they're trying to go for the same look. Like I said, it's a very homogeneous look. Okay, and number four, this is, for most people, means nothing, but if you are somebody who likes to smoke green things like myself, they are not into this at all. Actually, it scares them. They think you're just a crackhead. Oh, excuse my language. They think you are a junkie if you're into this. And I actually am. I'm a California guy, so this was kind of a big deal to me. I don't require a girl to smoke, but the fact that they were so close-minded was a really big turnoff for me. And it wasn't just smoking. They were very close-minded to all activities and all products that they were just not used to at all. It was very difficult to talk them into anything. It was like it almost felt like I was trying to push them off of a cliff. That is how they would react when I would try to introduce them to something new, and not just smoking. This was in general, that this is just how I felt. And let me leave you with a story here. So I was once dating a woman. We lived together. Beautiful. We lived in the best part of town. We had a beautiful apartment, nice balcony, and she was a traditional Northern Vietnamese woman. And everything was fine. We lived together for about, 8 months. And one day, we got into a disagreement about, it was my fault actually. I disrespected her because I basically just, kind of called her, weak, fragile, her skin was translucent. I think I referred to her as looking like somebody who died 6 hours ago, because that's the way their skin looks. She got so angry at me that she left the apartment while I was at work, because I did work in Vietnam, and she cleaned out the apartment, took everything from me, including my passport. She literally took everything that wasn't nailed to the ground. So socks, everything out the refrigerator, everything out of the bathroom, like the soap. She took the broom, the cleaning supplies, all of my clothes, all of my documents, everything that wasn't nailed down. She didn't take the refrigerator because she couldn't lift it up, and she ended up calling like a friend or an uncle or something to come and help her remove everything I owned. And this is just because I disrespected her skin color. Yeah. Okay. Now, I ended up getting this passport back, and this is because I had to go to the embassy, yada, yada, yada. It's a long story, but that is how serious they take their white skin. And it's really not white. It's like see-through. It looks very sick. It looks like they're sick to me. And I only noticed this after living there for, on like year two. I started to notice, I'm like, man, these girls really are not attractive as I thought they were, because you really start to notice that they go through extreme lengths for their skincare, and it does have effects. So yes, this is why. And also in general, I want to say, the it was very difficult to date up there. It's not Thailand at all. You're not just about to approach any girl. In Vietnam, you choose from the women that like you, as opposed to in other places, a man can choose from the women that he likes. Okay, so you don't really go on offense like that, and please remember, if you disagree, I hope you are not disagreeing from the standpoint of a tourist, because tourism is very different than residency. Of course, you can come to Vietnam and have a great weekend and meet some girl at some tourist club. Yeah, of course, that's different. I'm talking about people who live there, the normal girls, like a normal Vietnamese girl. They bring this spirit of Ho Chi Minh into the relationship, and it is just not my thing at all. And this is what I recommend to all men who are thinking about dating in Vietnam. Just import a girl from Laos. They look exactly the same. Or import a girl from Cambodia if you're in the South. But if you're in the South, you don't need to. Ultimately, that is what I did, and I wish I would have did that a lot sooner. Go to Laos, meet a girl. It's a lot easier than bring her to Vietnam, and you can, it's the same. They pretty much look the same. It's just definitely not as difficult. They don't have as many requirements. The women in Vietnam seem to view themselves as the prize, which I thought was laughable because they had nothing to offer you. Absolutely nothing. A Vietnamese woman could not upgrade me at all. There was nothing she could offer me, and but they don't think of it like that. They view themselves as the prize, which I'm like, they don't see it as we do in America. There's a billion Asian women that we can choose from. Now, I'm not even being hyperbolic here. There's almost literally a billion women, but each Vietnamese woman thinks that she is the princess. She's a princess. Very different from how the women treat you right next door in the Philippines. Very different than how the women treat you right next door in China. Very different than how the women treat you almost anywhere in the world. Vietnam is the worst place to date in my experience. This is coming from somebody who's lived there, worked there, fell in love there, and almost got married there. And I think that this was probably the worst aspect about Vietnam. When you live in Vietnam, you don't really have to date the Vietnamese women. You can just I recommend you just bring your own woman. I would never ever do that again. And this is probably why after I left Vietnam, when I think about Vietnam now, it's like, it's not even a place that I would visit. Not even a place that I would visit, to be 100% honest with you. Now, I think I made a video about why I don't like Vietnam, but I could make a 10-hour long video about my problems with Vietnam. It's ugly, it's dirty, the food safety doesn't exist. Everyone's obsessed with their skin color there. They're xenophobic. They're racist, but in a positive way. They don't hate black people. They just really love white skin. So now they're not really racist. They are xenophobic. They really do view themselves as superior to the Filipinos, which I find to be odd, but that's another story for a different time. And that is what I have to say. Dating in Vietnam is not something I recommend. And if you are somebody who's moving to Vietnam and you're young, you want to start a family, you want to meet somebody, skip Vietnam. Go to literally anywhere else. It is not the place you want to go. It's not a good value. You don't get a good bang for your buck there. You'd be better off just going right next door.